All right, perfect. It's a privilege to be here today to present the 2021 North Kansas City State of the City. Traditionally, the city has presented a State of the City for the Clay County EDC and the North Kansas City Business Council, mostly focused on economic development. But I felt it was important that we also do one tailored for residents. So for today's presentation, I'll give an overview first, then we'll go to department directors, and then we'll come back and answer some of the questions that I've received. So whenever you are ready to put on the PowerPoint, we can go through that. Perfect. Definitely a lot of exciting things that happened this last year. We have a lot of exciting things in store for the year ahead. Next slide, please. All right, first up, we got the Equity Inclusion Committee. In late 2020, we established the North Kansas City Equity Inclusion Committee to uphold community values while promoting community involvement for all residents, especially those from historically underrepresented communities. This committee serves as a resource to promote civic and cultural and economic engagement, to provide feedback on policies to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion through community engagement, making North Kansas City the best place to live. The committee has also put a great deal of time and effort into the formation and organization of the committee in the last year, and now they're in a really strong position to thrive in 2022. Be on the lookout in 2022 for the completion of their strategic plan plus other initiatives. Next slide, please. The Community for All Ages program. The Community for All Ages program recognizes communities that have taken steps to become more welcoming to residents of all ages, and in the process, more vibrant, healthy, and prosperous. North Kansas City was awarded the bronze level in August 2019, the silver level in 2020, and in February 2021, we were recognized as a gold level community. Next slide, please. Operation Safe. If you got your initial COVID-19 shot in Clay County, there's a good chance you got it at Operation Safe. North Kansas City was the proud home of Operation Safe last year. Operation Safe was a part of Missouri's COVID-19 vaccination prioritization program. The Operation Safe Coalition featured North Kansas City and Liberty hospitals, along with Cerner, Clay County Public Health, along with cities of North Kansas City, Liberty, Gladstone, Smithville, Kearney, Excelsior Springs, Pleasant Valley, and William Jewell College. This unique regional effort administered almost 100,000 vaccinations in 32 clinics. Next slide, please. Operation Safe showcased the very best of Clay County and our region. In June, Representative Rogers joined me in recognizing Chief Argus, Kim Nakahodo, and North Kansas City Hospital CEO, Dr. Righteous, for their roles in making Operation Safe possible. Next slide, please. Management team retirements. In the last year, we've had a couple members of our management team retire. City Administrator Eric Berland retired after 7 years of service, and Public Works Director Pat Harvey retired after 24 years of service. Next slide, please. All right, and with them leaving, some new people stepped into the roles. So this last year, we had hired Anthony Sands to join as our new Public Works Director, and Kim Nakahodo has been serving in the interim city administrator role since July. Recently, Sarah Copeland resigned to head into the private sector. So Kim and Anthony are currently serving as the interim community development director roles as well. Stay tuned though for news soon on our community development director, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. The search for our new city administrator is also ongoing, and I hope to have news to share on that in the next month as well. Next slide, please. All right, our city operations. Local government is people powered, and North Kansas City is fortunate to have a team of dedicated public servants committed to serving our community with professionalism, dedication, and compassion. I believe it's important that we showcase our employees and the work they do. So to help do that, I introduced the Employee Spotlight in the quarterly newsletter. In the years ahead, I'll be working on Spotlight employees in other ways. So when you get your quarterly newsletter, make sure you open it up and look to see what employee we've highlighted for that quarter. We also strive to make sure our employees feel welcome and valued for their hard work. So that's why I'm proud that our city now offers 8 weeks of parental leave for our employees. Previously, we had no paid parental leave policy. Going into the future, we'll continue to make sure we're looking at policies to make sure North Kansas City is not just a great place for people to work here now, but also a great place for people in the future to attract talent. I'd like to thank all of our staff for their dedication to our community and continuing to deliver the first-class city services we enjoy in North Kansas City. Next slide, please. Another exciting development this last year, it's only temporary, but it has been exciting, is having Briarcliff at Norclay. This year, we are very excited to be home at Briarcliff Elementary at North Lake Building. It's been years since North Kansas City's had an elementary school, and we truly love seeing the kids in our neighborhood. Next slide, please. The Minor Home Repair and Modification Program. With the adoption of the fiscal year 2022 budget came a few new programs for our residents. North Kansas City recently partnered with Northland Neighborhoods, Inc. and Rebuilding Together, Kansas City, to develop an NKC minor home repair and home modification program to support low to moderate income homeowners with needed home repairs. This new program will assist homeowners who do not have the financial means to respond to code violations and or modify their homes to accommodate their mobility or access needs. If you or someone you know could benefit from this program, I encourage you to reach out to the Community Development Department. Next slide, please. All right, exclusive NKC resident YMCA rates. I know I got a mailer the other day. I know many of you probably did as well, and that laid out a lot of those new rates. I'm excited that the city is now offering a special city subsidized membership rate to the North Kansas City YMCA. You know, it's something I've heard many times over the years, a desire for residents to have more affordable access to the YMCA. So Councilmember Clever and I worked hard with the YMCA to come up with this program. This new program will offer residents a monthly rate of $35 a month for individuals and $70 a month for families, along with other benefits. There's no joining fee. The first month is free. There's no early cancellation fees. For more on that, you can visit kansascitymca.org/NKC. Next slide, please. Public art. We've had a lot of good art installations over the last several years, thanks to the Tim C. Crummett Charitable Foundation. And now, in this last year, we completed Power of the Titans. Power of the Titans was a partnership with XL2, and it was artist Key Detail was the artist that completed the mural. There we go. The Tim C. Crummett Foundation is working on commissioning a new mural for 2022, so stay tuned for a call to walls coming up in the next month. Next slide, please. Redistricting. So as part of the census process, we received our new census numbers. Our new population is 4,467. With that comes redistricting. So on the screen now, you should see the new districts, the new wards. So make sure you take a look at this map before you head out to the polls in April to know who you should be voting for. Next slide, please. The One North development. North Kansas City continues to prosper and grow through redevelopment projects. The 64-acre One North redevelopment site was identified as a redevelopment opportunity over 20 years ago. A couple of the sites have been completed in the last year, and several others are now in the planning stages. Next slide, please. One of the sites completed in the last year included the Element and Aloft Hotel. This V-shaped development features 2 hotels, each containing 100 rooms. The property also features a 5,000 square foot conference center. The other is the Backyard Apartments. This 4-story multifamily development features 240 units. The property has amenities including a pool, rain garden, fire pit area, and private dog park. Next slide, please. Grocery store. North Kansas City will soon be home to a new full-service grocery store. The full-service grocery store will feature a modern design and layout with fresh produce, baked goods, meats, dairy, a floral section, and more. Construction is expected to begin and be completed in 2022. A full-service grocery store has been a goal for the NKC community for many years and is now almost a reality. Next slide, please. Millhouse Apartments. North Kansas City will also welcome a new multifamily apartment complex in the One North development. The multifamily component developed by Millhouse will include 6 individual buildings ranging from 36 to 80 units each, with a shared pool, clubhouse facility, and a dog park. Next slide, please. Of course, many of you are familiar with Northgate Village. This is one of the city's first large-scale redevelopment areas, first identified over 20 years ago. The project's now mostly complete with a few areas yet to be developed. Next slide, please. And one of those areas includes the row homes. Hunt Midwest is set to finish the remaining row homes in the next 2 years. 4 new row homes are under construction now and scheduled for completion this spring. Next slide, please. 23rd and Swift Apartments. The 23rd and Swift development sits on a 2-block square site just a couple blocks from our downtown. In August 2020, the city signed a development agreement with Star Acquisitions and Development. The property will feature 294 units with a pool, outdoor activity space, secure on-site parking, and a clubhouse. This project is expected to begin construction this spring. Next slide, please. All right, the strip of ground you're seeing on the screen here now The city issued an RFP in the fall of 2020 for development of the city-owned property along Burlington, and the result of that RFP was, next slide please, Bloom NKC. The city has partnered with Box Real Estate Development on progressive live-work development along Burlington. Bloom NKC, a community of owner-occupied vertical mixed-use townhomes and commercial buildings, combines European live-work design standards with a modern industrial architectural style inspired by historical North Kansas City buildings. The project is expected to break ground in 2022. Next slide, please. 18th and Swift. You've probably noticed the cranes, and you've seen a lot of the crane videos that have been posted from the 18th and Swift project. In January 2019, the city entered into an agreement with Sunflower Development Group for the development of 208 market rate residential units. The Oxbow is a $40 million investment and construction is currently underway. Next slide, please. Also, another construction project you've probably noticed going on is around Tay's Burger Shack right here on Armour Road. Once home to a White Castle restaurant in 2001, the city acquired the property that sits behind Tay's Burger Shack along Armour Road. In early 2021, the city authorized the sale of this property to Yarko. Gallery Lofts is a $10 million multifamily development with ground floor gallery and artist studio space and 42 on-site service parking stalls. 33 of the 49 apartments will be set aside for affordable housing. Construction on this project is in full swing and should be complete by this summer. Next slide, please. The Armour Road Complete Street Project. The ultimate vision for Armour Road is a safe corridor that serves all users, incorporates sustainable measures, is visually appealing, and economically vibrant. The coming phases include intersection and crosswalk improvements, beautification, and increased safety for pedestrians and cyclists along Armour Road. Phases 2, 3, and 4 should be completed in this next year. I know we're currently waiting on engineering drawings on that, but once we get those, we'll be able to put those out for bid and get construction moving down there. Next slide, please. Okay, a few of the projects on the horizon here. River Forest Park. Really excited. We had several members of the community reach out. So in partnership with the North Kansas City Parks and Recreation Board, the city is moving forward with a feasibility study for the new playground in River Forest Park. We look forward to hearing what features the residents of Port Ford would like to see in this new park. Next slide, please. Also, one I know I'm excited about is the streetcar feasibility study. The Kansas City Streetcar Authority, the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, and the City of North Kansas City are conducting a feasibility study to evaluate a streetcar extension over the Missouri River to North Kansas City. The study is expected to be completed by the fall 2022 and will feature multiple opportunities for public input. We have our first meeting for the advisory committee in early March, so looking forward to seeing this get underway. So stay tuned for opportunities to engage in this project. Next slide, please. Also on the horizon, the Burlington Corridor. The city continues to work towards improvements to the Burlington Corridor to make it a more green, welcoming, and complete street. Planned improvements will bring improved bicycle, pedestrian, and transit facilities to this major gateway in North Kansas City. This is a 3-phase project over the next 4 years. The total investment for this project over 4 years is $24 million. Next slide. There's not a next slide for me. This is my last slide for now. So now I'll turn it over to Kim Nakahoto to present for community development.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kim Nakahoto, and I'm going to present on the Community Development Department accomplishments for the last year. Next slide, please. Everything that the Community Development Department does is really guided by the city's master plan. And that is that the vision for North Kansas City supports existing places, creating unique and sustainable activity centers, and to grow economic development and support the community. Next slide, please. While 2021 was a year of ups and downs, Community Development Department stayed pretty busy issuing building permits and construction inspections to keep the businesses underway here in town. A total number of permits issued was close to the number in 2020, but permit valuations, can you go to the next slide? Permit valuations are a measure of the amount of investment in North Kansas City has rebounded to 2019 levels based on much larger development projects happening last year. And next slide. In November, the City Council gave final approval for updating the downtown streetscape. This project has been discussed since 2015, when the city began removing dying honey locust trees from the downtown corridors. Next slide. This construction project will not only add new trees downtown, it will add them in a much larger landscape area, which will help them stay healthy. But it will also replace aging pavers, crumbling concrete, cracking light poles, and it will install new furniture along the corridor, including benches, trash receptacle, and bicycle racks. The project concerns will only be in the pedestrian areas, which is pretty much the area from the building to the curb, and no changes will affect on the street itself. Oh, can you go back one? Thank you. Construction for this project area is along Armour Road from Buchanan to Fayette and from Swift Street from 18th to 21st Avenues. This construction will happen in phases to minimize inconvenience to both guests and businesses. During the construction, traffic will be maintained, but on-street parking will be closed off when that phase is under construction. Access to businesses will be preserved. The tree removal is expected to begin next week in advance of the construction. About half the trees downtown have been identified in poor condition and will be replaced by new trees in the fall. The other half are in good condition and will stay in place. Mega KC, a North Kansas City company, will be doing the construction on this project, and construction won't begin until after Snake Saturday. If you'd like to know more information about this project, we invite you to go to nkc.org/downtown. Next slide, please. We'd like to talk about, we have implemented a few new ways for you to access our services through the Community Development Department, and one of them is the new online permitting application process. Some of the things that we have learned along the way through our COVID experience is that more people would like to interface with this on their own terms, meaning through their hours and how they would like to. So you can do your permitting both online, go ahead, next slide, as well as all of our guides are online. The city did launch a brand new website, so hopefully you'll be able to find this information in a more intuitive way. And that is all that I have for community development. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And I'd like to introduce Anthony Sands, the Director of Public Works.
Hello, good afternoon.
I'm gonna 1 second. We are live, right? I got a message that I don't know if the link was working.
Yes, we are. I've watched it on YouTube.
Oh, you are perfect. Okay, thank you.
I saw it also.
Hi, good afternoon. As Kim said, my name is Anthony Sands. I have the privilege of being the new Public Works Director for the City of North Kansas City. This is my first year with the city, and North Kansas City is a beautiful and unique place, and I feel very lucky to be here. So what does Public Works do? Well, obviously, when I made this slide, I wasn't thinking about what we're doing today, which is clearing a lot of snow. The crews have been out since really early yesterday morning or this morning, and we'll be continuing on through the night. Some reports say we've got 9 inches of snow in some areas, and we're going to be at it for a while. But other than snow removal, we routinely provide intermediate maintenance for roadways, filling potholes, repairing curbs, sidewalks, permitting utility construction, caring for street signage and traffic signals. We help maintain over 3,000 public trees along the streets and in public spaces. We maintenance over 42 miles of storm sewers and 6 stormwater pumping stations. Excuse me. We facilitate 38 miles of drinking water distribution lines and manage over 37 miles of wastewater and industrial wastewater sanitary sewer mains. Next slide, please. Our largest project currently is a $15 million upgrade and restoration to our city's water treatment plant. The plant has been pulling water from the Missouri River for from the Missouri Aquifer for over 100 years. And restorations to this plant will bring the treatment processes into the 21st century, where hopefully we'll get another 100 years out of it. Next slide, please. So I mentioned North Kansas City is a unique place, and along those lines, we have a very unique inventory of infrastructure. Over the next 3 years, we want to dive into those things that we don't normally think about, like water lines and sewer lines, and take a really close look at how to maintain, replace, and care for these aging critical city components. This fiscal year, we're going to be studying our stormwater sewers. We actually have a RFP advertised right now. We're looking for a consultant to help us identify capacity issues, maintenance programs, and just how we can plan for capital repairs. In the next fiscal year, so starting in October, we're going to do the same kind of study on our sanitary sewer system and industrial monitoring process. So again, looking at capacity issues, identifying strategic improvements, and just learning how to maintain the system going forward. And then finally, in the third year of this program, we're going to look at our water distribution system. At this point, our water treatment plant, our new water treatment plant will be up and running. We'll understand fully how it integrates with our system, and we can pivot to studying the distribution component of that and how we make up our water delivery. So that's what I have from Public Works. Stay safe out there. If you see a snowplow, please wave, and we're going to be working to get the streets cleared. Thank you. Oh, up next, Victoria with Parks and Recreation.
Hello, I'm Victoria Ressler, Director of Parks and Recreation. Next slide, please. We have a lot of exciting projects happening at Mackin Park. The ball diamond renovation is currently underway. This project is financially shared between the city, the North Kansas City School District, and the Park Board. The project is to be completed the end of March, and we are hopeful to get the high school's April home games played there. Next slide, please. Some of the highlights include the synthetic infield turf, a 2-story press box, 12-foot outfield fencing, CMU dugout walls, and there's a field storage building for the high school right off the field too. Next slide, please. We're gearing up for our Friday night concerts with several tribute bands in the works, like the Phil Collins Experience, Bob Seger, Bonnie Raitt, Bob Jovi, just to name a few. They are all held at the Festival Shelter at Mackin, and that's the second Friday of the month, May through September. Next slide, please. Our 6th annual Arts in the Park Festival is coming up the second weekend in June. We're planning for approximately 40 plus different art vendors, showcasing different mediums, live music, beer garden, food trucks, and entertainment for the kids. Next slide, please. Movies in the Park will be back for the months of June, July, and August. This summer, we're featuring Cruise, The New Age, Encanto, and Sing 2. Movie nights feature different sponsors and fun activities for the kids, with the movie starting at dusk. Next slide, please. The tennis court lighting project should be wrapped up by early April, converting the old ballast lighting to new LED sports lighting. Other capital improvement projects for this summer include resurfacing Will Park and park restroom renovations. Next slide, please. Deg Park Splash Ground will open over Memorial Day weekend, and Wagon Trail Dog Park is in full swing. It will be closed for a short period, mid to late March, for aerating and seeding. Next slide, please. We do host 2 fun events at the dog park. The first is Bonanza, which is coming up on Saturday, April 9th, and it is a dog Easter egg hunt. And then in October, we host our Halloween event, which is a costume contest for the dogs. Both events accept monetary and pet supply donations, and then we share those with the North Kansas City Animal Shelter. Next slide, please. Inside the center, we have rentals that have started to pick back up, and we're available to provide space for all kinds of life events, from meetings to birthday parties, baby showers, weddings, whatever life celebration you may have. And then also beginning March 1st, we'll start taking our outdoor shelter reservations. Next slide, please. We offer enrichment classes for youth and adult, recreational sports, and encore activities for our seniors. Next slide, please. And lastly, we're always looking for ways to partner. We welcome sponsors for any of our events and activities. We rely on parent volunteers, a great deal for our youth baseball and softball leagues. So if you're interested or you'd like to find a way to connect, please give us a call. Thank you. Next slide, please. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief Freeman. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Freeman. I'm the police chief here in North Kansas City. Been with the city for 25 years now and been the chief of police for the last 2 years. So next slide, please. One of the things that's been really consistent the last 2 or 3 years here in North Kansas City with our department is change, staffing changes. We've had many tenured employees decide to retire over the last few years, and 2021 was no different. Officer Boland, Communication Supervisor Alvarez, and Sergeant Romine all decided to go into retirement. Next slide, please. With those retirements of some rank, we had a couple promotions, and from within, Communication Supervisor Buffington took over that role, and Sergeant Besor took over the role that Sergeant Romine left. Next slide, please. And then among those retirements and the ones we had prior, we've had many vacancies to fill over the last few years. This is some of the vacancies that we filled in 2020. Some of our officers and civilians, and then parking control officer Shank has also now transitioned to a police officer and is currently in the police academy. So that besides Officer Shank, we also have 3 other new hires that started the police academy within the last 3 months. So at this point in time, I'm knocking on wood, we are fully staffed on paper. And when I say on paper, that just means that the 4 officers that are in the academy right now are not out there actively patrolling your streets, but we hope to get them out soon and hopefully not lose anybody in the interim. Next slide, please. It's just our organizational chart for everyone to take a quick look at. As you see, our divisions are broke out into our patrol division and our support services division, and everybody flows underneath that a little bit. The openings there you see, that has changed just a little bit within the last 2 weeks because we've had 2 additional hires that started the police academy last Monday. Mark Rivera and Daniel Marachek has started the police academy last week. So they'll be added to those roles under the academy tab and hopefully eventually fill in those slots. Next slide, please. One of the things that came up a couple years back when we had our outdoor community forum was how much training do our officers get. So this is just a quick example of how much training that we're required to get each year. As you see, we have to get a total of 24 hours of training from Missouri Post, and 8 of those have to be broke down into the independent skill departments there, and then the rest of them are electives. Included in the electives that we are required to get each year is 1 hour racial profiling training, 1 hour of implicit bias training, and 1 hour of de-escalation training. So as of last year, there was 1,570 hours of total training that was conducted by our officers, broke down into the different sections there. So next slide, please. One of the other things that's been a key training component for us is crisis intervention training. These are officers that go through a 40-hour basic CIT program put on by Tri-County Mental Health that allows our officers to be a little bit better prepared to deal with people in crisis in North Kansas City. The training's been out there for a long time. It's gaining a lot of steam lately. It is our goal to get as many of our officers trained as possible. Currently, we have 41 sworn positions. Take away the 4 that are in the academy, drops us down to 37 actually out there on the streets. Of those 37, 27 have already received the CIT training. And there's another course that's coming up at the end of April that we're planning to get as many people in as possible to that as well. Next slide, please. Here's our crime trends. This is 2021 data. It's not good. We're not insulated with a problem with the increasing crime over the last few years in not only the metro area, but in the nationwide. This is something that I feel is a little bit of reminiscent from pandemic issues. Crime was up, accountability was down, and we're starting to see that pay the price for that just a little bit. This year has started off a little bit better than last year, so we hope the trend continues. Next slide, please. So we broke down the larcenies because that's the highest highest crime trend here in North Kansas City. When we're always asked what's the thing you got to be most worried about for crime in North Kansas City, it's larcenies, it's thefts. This is how our thefts broke down by month, by type of theft. It's a little hard to see on the slide, but the dark blues are shopliftings, the reds are thefts from motor vehicle. That is anything that is stolen that's inside of a motor vehicle. Theft of motor vehicle parts and accessories is anything that's attached to a vehicle. And that's where like we see a trend of the catalytic converter thefts, kind of roller coaster. We get an upswing of them and then we don't have any for a while. You might have heard a story on the news just last night that a pretty big arrest was made in the metropolitan area with someone that was accepting these stolen catalytic converters. So hopefully that'll help us out on the end there. And then theft from building is purple, and the light blue is any other theft reports. Next slide, please. One of the other things we've been really working hard on is recovering stolen autos. We use our LPR, license plate recognition technology, to help us recover stolen autos. A lot of the other thefts that you see on the other prior graphs a lot of them are associated with people that are stealing cars, right around stolen cars, and committing other crimes. So put a lot of effort into trying to recover as many stolen cars as we can. We use our technology to do that as a force multiplier. You see 132 recovered stolen autos since January of 2021, and many of them with assistance of the LPR program. Looking forward, the LPR, we look to enhance our LPR program this year. New equipment has been ordered to have additional readers on the cars, have additional fixed readers, and hopefully even more fixed readers with a grant application that we made. Next slide, please. Another thing that we got asked about in the community forum was our use of force. What is our documented use of force? So we keep track of every use of force incident that occurs here in North Kansas City, and that is almost anything above officer presence. So verbal direction is a use of force when accompanied with another higher level of force. So you see a lot of these use of force incidences. What did we do that caused us to create a use of force report? And that's how this graph is laid out. You see the display of lethal force on the 37 there. That is high, but what that entails mostly is occupied stolen autos. We treat those as what we call a high-risk car stop. And so generally our guns are drawn in those situations, so that raises the level of that particular use of force. Next slide, please. These are just the reasons that we would need to use force. Everything is documented. The numbers won't add up to the total of what our use of force incidences are, because each thing can be additionally on each report. So you could use a force to affect and arrest and defend another person and defend self. So all of those things can combine to the reasons why we use force. Next slide, please. This is just a small graph to show if there was impairment involved by the subject that we used force against. Next slide, please. One of the things we're really excited about this year was the update of our crime map. We had an old program that never really worked that well. So we worked really hard with our IT staff and a new vendor to get this program launched, and it's working really well. So you just on our website, the nkc.org/police department, you can go on and you can look at any crime that's occurring in the area. You can change your date parameters. You can drill it down to a specific crime that you want to look at. So this helps our neighbors and our neighborhoods know what's going on in their neighborhood. Next slide, please. And that is all for me. So I will turn it over to Chief Hargis of the Fire Department. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chief Dave Hargis. I've been with the city of North Kansas City for a little over 30 years now. I've been the chief for the past 5. And looking back over the last year, a lot of our efforts at the beginning of the year were focused on COVID-19. We were part of the vaccination efforts at Operation Safe. We hired 4 new firefighters in the past year, and we had 3 paramedic school graduates. Next slide, please. Our new recruits were firefighter Nick Anello, Keenan Gray, Andrew Bunning, and Brandon Costner. They've all been on for about 6 months now and are doing really well. Next slide, please. We had retirements, which ended up with promotions. Frank Yardley and Brian Freeman were both promoted to fire apparatus engineer last year. Next slide, please. We had 3 individuals complete their paramedic program and were promoted to paramedic firefighters. And that was Nathaniel Pike, Jordan Sands, and Jacob Long. If you're not aware, the community, the whole region has had a lack of paramedics available due to the pandemic and just the burnout of the job. We were able to send our internal candidates to school to fulfill those roles. Next slide, please. We had 2 retirements last year, both fire apparatus engineers. That was Joseph Irick and John Yinger. They both had 20+ years with the department. Next slide, please. We continue to provide the highest level of service. We're committed to that. Next slide, please. Our training for personnel, last year we had 8,962 hours of company training, which was where the trucks go out as a group and train on different scenarios, whether it be rappelling, firefighting, laying hose, those type of things. We had 2,275 hours of EMS training and 941 hours of specialty training, which is, again, like the rappelling. Next slide, please. Last year was a busy year for us. We ended up with a total of 2,495 total responses. 1,884 of those were EMS or rescue, and we transported 1,494 patients to an area hospital last year. We had 67 fires of various degrees last year, which is also an increase. It seemed like our activities during 2021, we had about a 20% increase. Next slide, please. We purchased a new ambulance last year and took delivery. We now have a fleet where all of our frontline apparatuses are under 7 years old, which means we have much more efficient equipment, and our maintenance costs should be going down with that new equipment. Next slide, please. We continued with fire prevention activities. We were able to get back into doing that with COVID mitigation strategies. Our crews go out and have been doing all the new construction that Kim alluded to and the mayor at the beginning of this. Our crews are intimately involved with going out and inspecting those as they're going up, making sure everything meets the correct codes for life safety. Next slide, please. They talked about having a grade school in town again, which was great. We were able to go out and do a lot of stuff at the grade school. We still are. It's nice to have the small kids to go out, and they really enjoy getting the messages on putting together safety plans for their home, checking their smoke detectors, and we just enjoy interacting with the young kids. Next slide, please. Part of the deal we talked about earlier was Operation Safe. We gave over 97,000 shots during that event, and over 7,500 vaccinations were given by members in the North Kansas City Fire Department. So we continue to work with the Clay County to give vaccinations to homebound individuals as needed at this time as well. Next slide. We have 3 personnel currently in paramedic training, and we have at least 2 more that have talked about signing up in an upcoming class. We continue to improve our relationships with the business community and other jurisdictions in order to provide better service to our city. With that, we're constantly upgrading our technology to improve our efficiency, and we continuously evaluate the effectiveness of our service delivery. And we really encourage, if anybody has any ideas or issues with the service delivery that we're giving the city, please let us know. Next slide. And that's all for me.
Thank you. appreciate all of you presenting everything today. A lot of information. We have fantastic department heads, fantastic staff, top to bottom. Everybody's doing an absolute great job. If anyone sees it, especially in our public safety or public works crews out right now, make sure and thank them, not while they're working on the streets, but definitely thank them for these efforts of making sure our streets are clean and we're able to continue commerce and get to where we need to go. Some other things. So this video will remain on YouTube and will be posted later on channel 2. I hope everyone has some time to check out our new website as well. I did want to provide a couple other updates real quick. And obviously COVID-19, hopefully we're in a good phase now as the pandemic continues to shift. So after several months of having a mask order, we no longer have any mask order in North Kansas City. Throughout the pandemic, I'll continue to monitor the effects of COVID-19 on the city and respond as needed. But hopefully we are done and we are finally turning a corner. Other updates, I know I got this in the mail too the other day. Hopefully a lot of you did. The Flex Route. The NKC Flex Route continues to be free and they have a new app. So make sure you download the Ride KC Flex app on Android and Apple. Back to some, didn't receive many questions, but always do have frequently asked questions. So I was going to run down just a couple of those, and most of them were already answered. Diamond 1. Diamond 1's been the one I've been hearing about a lot lately. As mentioned, March 28th. It's anticipated that everything should be done by March 28th on Diamond 1. Also received some questions on Armor Road. Phases 2, 3, and 4, as I mentioned earlier, should be drawn. The engineer should be complete by mid-March. And from there, it takes a little bit of time to get it out to bid. Unless, Anthony, do you have anything else to add on that? Takes a little bit of time to get it out to bid. And then after we get those bid backs, we'll head into the construction phase, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Perfect. One question I did get, how do you get a hold of me? Various ways, cell phone, email. Obviously, I do work a daytime job. Being mayor isn't the full-time job around here. So sometimes it may take a little while to get back, or I may just miss. So if I do miss you, make sure you try to reach out again, and I'll try to get back to you. Those are the most frequent questions I do get. And so I've touched on a lot of things I wanted to touch on today. Was there anyone on staff that wanted to add anything else? Seeing no one coming off mute, I'll take that as a no. So next year, as we scheduled this one, Omicron was still, working its way towards its peak. So hopefully next year would be a much better place to do this in person. And finally, we'll be scheduling, I'm looking to schedule some, coffee connections and happy hours in the near future. So stay tuned for those as well. So thank you everyone for joining. And again, thank you to our fantastic staff that helped put this together and takes care of our operations every single day. So thank you, everyone.